Welcome to the Netherlands Civ Spotlight for multiplayer Civ 6 with the Better Balanced Game mod. In this video, we'll be covering the strategies and build orders needed to succeed as the Netherlands, led by the leader Wilhelmina. First things first, some astute viewers may have noticed that there's something odd about these polders.
Wait a minute!
Indeed, in the base game, these polders would not be legal. However, the Better Balanced Game mod tweaks many civs in order to create a more competitive multiplayer experience, and to achieve that end, they've relaxed the placement requirements on polders a bit. The results speak for themselves. But before we get to this point, we have to start from the beginning. The Dutch are a civ that generally lacks in early game bonuses. We don't have half-cost harbors like England, and we don't have free culture bombs and tile yields like Australia or Maori. As a result, our early game will be pretty vanilla, just opening with 2 scouts followed by 2 settlers as we tech straight for harbors. While there is a strategy that revolves around building campuses first to take advantage of the extra adjacency the Dutch get on them, this strategy doesn't scale as well as rushing straight for harbors. An early campus build is primarily intended to get a lot of science early on so that the Dutch player can rush for their unique unit, de Zeven Provinciën, and kill someone with it. However, that strategy requires that we share an ocean with another player. As this game is being played with the Lakes map type, this isn't likely. What the Lakes map is good for, however, is facilitating some juicy polder setups as the game goes along. The standard early game build order for the Netherlands is just an ordinary full harbor opener with internal trade routes being sent to the city with the Governor Magnus for extra yields. However, with the right city-states, such as Singapore or Kumasi, we could instead take advantage of the extra 2 culture we gain on external trade routes right from the start, trading to a city-state with the Governor Amani assigned for extra food and production. In this game, however, the city-states near enough for us to trade with are pretty lackluster, so we're going to be sticking with reliable old Magnus internals for the early game. We do actually send our first trade route to a city-state in this game, but only briefly. Prior to establishing Magnus in our capital and building a government plaza, we send a trade route to Valletta in order to get some extra culture and ensure we reach the political philosophy civic fast enough to secure our first golden age. Afterwards, we declare war in Valletta to instantly cancel the trade route, warping our trader back to our city and letting us reassign it to Magnus's city for better yields. Valletta doesn't take kindly to this cheeky action and sends some units to grief us, but since multiplayer games are technically played on Prince difficulty, the city-state's weak enough that it only takes a single archer to hold everything off. Outside of Valletta, there are some other interesting city-states we meet in this game. We first meet Bologna, Vilnius, and Lahore. Scouting further, we discover the cities Auckland and Nan Madol, which have 2 of the very best suzerain bonuses in the entire game for naval civs. However, we were beaten to the punch here. These 2 city-states were both first met by Victoria Age of Steam, played by the #1 player in the current CPL ranked free-for-all season, Amit. Listen to him explain how he accomplished this.
You see, the secret to hitting rank 1 in CPL isn't just playing better than everyone else, it's spawning better than everyone else. Anyone can be rank 1, as long as they learn to just spawn better.
Truly some words of wisdom. Like most civs, we rush straight for the feudalism civic in order to unlock the serfdom policy card and start pumping out some 5-charge builders. As were the Dutch, however, there's something else feudalism unlocks for us, our unique tile improvement, the Polder. Right away, placing these next to our harbors gives us some pretty good tiles. However, in order for polders to truly come online, we'll have to wait until the replaceable parts technology, which comes way later in the game. Moving on, we plan on taking free inquiry as our next Golden Age dedication in order to bolster our science. This means that we'll lose access to pen, brush, and voice, so we need to start planning how we'll be generating our culture. Fortunately for us, this game has many cultural city-states, and our Civ bonus grants us +2 adjacency from rivers on all of our theater squares. Therefore, we place down a couple of theater squares and take control of the city-state of Vilnius to multiply their adjacencies a bit. We also levy Vilnius's army, which accomplishes 4 things. First, it grants us the inspiration for the mercenary civic, since we now control at least 8 land military units. Secondly, it helps us to kill Valletta. Thirdly, it helps us to scout the map a bit. And lastly, levying a city-state always grants +1 era score. At this stage of the game, we also start setting up our industrial zones. As we're playing the Dutch, we gain +2 adjacency on all industrial zones placed along rivers, so our adjacencies will be pretty cracked once we get our aqueducts up to boost the industrial zone adjacencies further. We don't need many of these districts, we just build 4 of them in total in locations where we can get some aqueduct diamond setups for maximum adjacencies. As the mid-game rolls around, we enter into free inquiry as our golden age, just as we had planned. As we're rapidly approaching the diplomatic service civic, which unlocks the Whistle Bank and policy card, we finally start sending all of our trade routes internationally to our ally, taking advantage of the +2 culture on international trade routes granted by our leader bonuses. Furthermore, we're able to take control of Auckland, gaining its powerful suzerain bonus to supercharge our polders. It should be noted that this game is being played on the newest patch of the BBG beta, which means that Auckland has been nerfed to only provide +1 production on improved water tiles rather than all water tiles. However, since we can just put polders everywhere, this nerf doesn't really have any effect on our civ. For Wilhelmina, Auckland is still as strong as ever. While our polder yields are great, they come at a cost. We start brushing up against what I've come to call the Inca problem. This is a phenomenon where, when a civ's bonuses revolve largely around gaining extra food and housing, they have a larger than normal strain placed on their amenities. This drops them to a lower amenity breakpoint, reducing their yields to the point where it cancels out most of their civ bonuses. You see, build orders in Civ 6 have been carefully crafted in order to try and maintain certain amenity breakpoints throughout the game, and civs like the Netherlands, Inca, and even Cree can break these builds with their extra food and housing. Our spawn is fairly low in luxury resource diversity, and even after trading our duplicate luxuries with other players, it's still not quite enough. As a result, the explosive population growth granted by our polders pushes many of our core cities below the +3 amenity breakpoint, meaning that we're missing out on a ton of free yields for the time being. The solutions to this problem are locked away in the civics tree, which is where our theater squares will come in handy. The Enlightenment civic grants us the liberalism policy card for +1 amenity in every city, pushing us back to +3 amenities everywhere, and essentially granting us 8% extra science, culture, production, and gold empire-wide. Later on, the Natural History Civic will unlock zoos and aquariums, which will be vital in getting to the +5 amenity breakpoint for an additional 8% to all yields. Returning to the game, we need to start planning for our third golden age, and it seems like hitting it isn't going to be easy. We finally produce a single copy of our unique unit just for the +4 era score we get for doing so. Furthermore, we get a military engineer to start constructing a railroad between 2 cities, granting us +3 era score for the world's first railroad connection. Lastly, we need to secure 2 world wonders to push ourselves over the finish line. For this purpose, we start building the Terracotta Army and the Kilwa Kisiwani. However, disaster strikes. Our ally, the dastardly rank 1 player Amit, is building the Kilwa Kisiwani as well. Ultimately, it becomes clear that we're going to finish the wonder on the same turn. Unfortunately for us, Firaxis is a cruel developer. The way that World Wonder ties are determined in multiplayer games is by always granting the wonder to the player with the higher slot order. Slot order refers to the position a player has in the pre-game lobby. Amit, in a true display of skill, elects to host all of the lobbies that he plays in. This means that he always has the highest slot order, and therefore always wins these wonder tiebreakers. As we've clearly been outplayed, we're forced to switch to building the Chichen Itza instead in order to secure our golden age, and we're able to secure this wonder without incident. Thanks to all of this, we're able to hit our third golden age, choosing reform the coinage for some extra gold on all of our trade routes. As a result, we have to wave goodbye to free inquiry and start generating our science the old-fashioned way. Luckily for us, we were able to snag the great scientist Isaac Newton with some timely campus projects earlier in the game, and combining this with the extra campus adjacency we get from rivers, we're able to maintain good science even without relying on free inquiry. In quick succession, we hit several massive power spikes. First, we're finally able to fix our amenities, getting every city to +5 by building a zoo, an aquarium, and some sewers. Then we unlock replaceable parts, which massively buffs every polder in our empire. Suddenly, on turn 81, our capital is rocking a respectable 156 production per turn. However, at this point, it doesn't look likely that we're going to win. Amit is 4 techs ahead of us and barreling towards a science victory, and as he's playing Victoria Age of Steam, it's doubtful that production will bottleneck him enough for us to catch up. Without going for a backstab play here, which would be especially dubious as Amit is our only trading partner, we have no chance of actually taking first. So, do we just pack up our bags, say we tried our best, and sit idly by while we wait for the game to be conceded? No, I say. Just because we can't win doesn't mean that there's nothing to play for. In a stroke of genius, the Civ Players League created an infallible elo system which ranks players based on their average performance. Even if we can't get first, we can still gain some rating by playing for a higher position. Since every position other than first is merely determined by the score a player has at the end of the game, all we have to do is try to maximize that score. So, what's the best way to go about doing this? Simple, we conquer another player. There are really 2 options here that we could choose as our target: Congo to the west or Australia to our northeast. Ultimately, the deciding factor is the quality of the land. Australia's land is filled with their unique tile improvement, the Outback Station. The problem with this is that conquering a civ with many unique tile improvements causes those improvements to vanish, leaving low quality, unimproved land as a result. Congo's land, however, is developed with mines and lumber mills, which will remain after we kill them. Furthermore, their empire is rich with rainforests, which synergizes well with the Chichen Itza we built earlier. As a result, we start constructing a railroad to their land as we pre-build a ton of bombards and cuirassiers. Upgrading these to tanks and artillery, we're able to easily blitz down our unprepared target. Fortunately for us, Korea had already started attacking Congo earlier in the game, meaning that the Congolese military is completely preoccupied on the northern end of their empire, leaving their southern cities defenseless. In an admirable display of skill and finesse, we score max our way to another clean second place as the game is conceded to Amit on turn 96. Thanks for watching to the end. If you want to catch me playing full games of Civ 6 live, be sure to follow me on Twitch, which I've linked in the description. I also have a brand new Discord server which you can join to ask me questions directly. If you want to find out how to replicate the level of play on display in this game, be sure to check out my video guide series for multiplayer Civ 6, where I explain all of the meta strategies that strong Civ players use to set paces like the one in this video. That's all. Herson, signing out.